It all started on a brisk Tuesday morning on Capitol Hill, the kind of morning that feels more like the calm before a storm. Inside the high-ceilinged hearing room, cameras rolled, political tension hung thick in the air, and the public gallery buzzed with anticipation. The committee was in session, and seated at the head of the long mahogany table was Congressman Adam Schiff. Eyes sharp behind his glasses, already focused, already calculating. John Kennedy, the ever-outspoken senator from Louisiana, entered the room like a gust of southern wind, unapologetic, unpredictable, and unshakably himself. Dressed in his usual navy suit, with that slight lean of a country lawyer who'd spent a lifetime fighting battles both in courtrooms and in hearts, John wasn't there to cause chaos. He was there to speak a truth he felt had been silenced for too long, but not everyone wanted to hear it. The room tensed the moment Kennedy stepped up to the microphone during a subcommittee discussion on media transparency and censorship. His intention was clear: to call out what he saw as an alarming disregard for differing opinions, a growing intolerance in the political discourse. His words were bold, but not cruel, passionate, but grounded. Still, as he built his argument, citing real concerns from his constituents back in Louisiana, a visible shift occurred. Adam Schiff leaned in, whispered something to the security detail at the side of the room. Then, like a moment out of a courtroom drama, the order came. "Remove him," Schiff said sharply, barely loud enough for the mics, but enough to draw gasps from those who heard. The gallery erupted. Murmurs shot through the room like lightning. The guards hesitated, unsure. This wasn't just any protester. This was Senator John Kennedy. Kennedy paused as the security team approached, his eyes narrowing, not in anger, but in that quiet, simmering disbelief, the kind that stings deeper than rage. "You're going to throw me out," he said softly, "for speaking the truth." Schiff said nothing. The silence was his answer. And so, with cameras still rolling, and hearts in throats, John stood. But he didn't walk out. He turned. Facing the gallery, and with every cell phone now aimed squarely at him, he did something no one expected. He spoke again, not to Schiff, not to the committee, but to the American people. "I may not be allowed to finish my remarks in this room," he began, his voice steady, "but I will not be silenced. Not here, not in Washington, not in America." He spoke not like a man cast out, but like a man stepping into history. He told stories not of policies or procedures but of people. A single mother in rural Louisiana, afraid to speak her mind online. A veteran who felt like a stranger in his own country for defending the Constitution. A high school student silenced in Class 4, daring to challenge the narrative. "Disagreement is not disorder," Kennedy said. "Debate is not a crime. And truth, however uncomfortable, is not hate." Security stood frozen. Even Schiff looked rattled, unsure whether to proceed or back down. Kennedy had turned a moment of political theater into something raw, real, and undeniable. When he finally walked out on his own terms, the room was no longer tense. It was silent. Outside, the press mobbed him, desperate for quotes, for commentary. But Kennedy didn't take questions. He walked straight to the Capitol steps, pulled out his phone, and went live. In minutes, his impromptu speech, raw and unedited, began spreading across social media. Millions tuned in, watching a man who'd been told to sit down and shut up, refused to do either. Over the next few days, something extraordinary happened. People who didn't always agree with Kennedy, people from across the political spectrums, spoke up in support. Not because of his party, not even because of his message, but because they recognized something deeper: courage. Courage to stand in the face of power and speak when told to be silent. Courage to walk out, not in defeat, but in dignity. And most of all, the courage to remind us that democracy only lives when voices are heard, even the ones that make us uncomfortable. John Kennedy didn't start that day intending to make headlines. He didn't walk into that hearing room seeking a viral moment. But by the end of it, he reminded the nation of something we'd almost forgotten: that truth is not defined by those in power, it's defined by those brave enough to speak it. And sometimes, when the system tries to push you out, The most powerful thing you can do is stand your ground and speak anyway. End with the narrator's voice fading into music. In a time when so many are afraid to speak, one man refused to be silenced. What would you do if they told you to sit down and be quiet? Fade to black. Title card appears. Stand tall, speak loud, be heard. Subscribe for more stories that reveal the truth behind the headlines.